Hello, hello, hello. This is our June Spine of the Month book chat. I know we're in July, but this is June. And we're talking to Kennedy Ryan today. Hello, welcome. So we're having our June Spine of the Month book chat. Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan kicked off our summer reading series. I think this is the fourth year for our summer reading series, and I'm so excited that we're talking to Kennedy today. Perfect book to kick off the summer reading series. This book like wrecked me. I still think about it, and I read it, I think, like during the holidays. So I think Kennedy's in here. And let me know if you guys can hear me okay. I'm on travel, so I'm kind of like in a hotel, and this is like really awkward. And I forgot my light. I forgot my book, but we're going to make it happen. Let me see. I think Kennedy's here. Reading with Diverse Spines this summer. It's been really exciting. Oh my gosh, here comes Kennedy.
Hi,
Hi!
how are
I'm
you?
good. I'm so excited to have
I
you
am
here.
too. I am too. I really am. Thank you guys for having me.
I'm so upset that I didn't see you at Essence. I missed you.
Oh my gosh, yes. I saw pictures of you there later and I was like, oh my gosh, I wanted to connect with her. It was a lot. It
It
was a
was
lot.
a lot, and it was hot.
Oh my gosh, it was so hot. I was determined I wouldn't like be outside and I ended up walking for like 5 minutes and it was too much.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was a
too
lot.
much.
I walked on Bourbon to eat in there, and I was like, I can't do it. I could not survive. So anyway, welcome to Diverse Spines. I mean, I'm so
Thank
excited,
you.
and
I am too. Thank
I'm.
you so much for having
Let
me.
me tell you, this book. I'm not a huge romance reader, right? But everyone kept talking about this.
Right,
Read this book, read this book, and overall, in general, I'm not just really a mushy person. I'm like I think
right,
most
right.
people think romance that way. But anyway, the cover, and I was like, oh my gosh,
Yes,
this book is absolutely stunning. If nothing else, I want it for the cover.
yes.
And so,
Bingo, bingo.
and so, because it looks good, I have it facing
Yes,
outward. And so I started it on audio.
yes. Oh, Jacoby and Wesley are fantastic
Amazing.
narrators.
And
They
I
really are.
instantly said to myself, I said, first of all, this feels like what happened with not my like co-parenting through a divorce. It just felt
Yeah,
so
yeah.
real, and immediately
Yes.
I was hooked. So I want to welcome you. I want you
Thank you.
to do a brief intro to our audience,
Okay.
yourself, and just introduce
Okay.
yourself. But you guys, we're doing our June Spine of the Month book check. I know it's July, but
Yeah.
Kennedy and I had a lot going on, and
Yes.
so we are now talking about our June Spine, which was Before I Let Go.
Yeah.
It kicked off our summer reading series. And so welcome, Kennedy, and I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself. We do not
Mhm.
spoil the book here at Diversify.
Okay.
Even though
That's
it's a
good to
book,
know. That's good to
yeah,
know.
even though it's a book club, I tell people if you want to talk about it and get into it, hit the DMs, get some friends in the book club and talk about it. But we don't spoil the book because we want people to buy the book
Okay.
and
Yes,
get to
yes.
know your work. Yes. So introduction.
Okay. I am Kennedy Ryan. I write romance, contemporary romance slash women's fiction. You mentioned that it's romance, but it felt like a lot of other things. I get that from a lot of people that it feels like romance plus. And I really like to write real life. I like to explore sometimes difficult
Yeah.
topics. And I feel like romance is a very safe place to do that because we have a guaranteed happily ever after. We have guaranteed joy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else you guys want to know about me except that I am a romance lover. I'm a bibliophile. I listen to most of my books by audio. And I love centering women, especially women of color, and showing them as powerful, but also human and vulnerable. And I love, because I write romance, I love showcasing them being loved wildly and completely and unconditionally. So that's me.
I absolutely love that. And I'm gonna go
Mhm.
back and listen to that intro because I think the thing that you talked about, you said you love writing romance, but you showcase women, especially women of color,
Yes.
in real life. You know, we're human, we have feelings just like everyone else. And that's what I loved about this book. And so what I would like to know is,
Oh, this is the book.
yes, thank you. Thank you. So I don't think you were on when I first said, like, I'm traveling. I said, and I don't know.
I heard you.
I forgot the book. I forgot my life. So this is like all makeshift.
I did hear you. That's why I grabbed mine. I was like, okay, this is the book. It's actually the book. It's the book of the month version, I think. But
yes,
yeah.
So I was like, I don't have a hardcover. I have a paperback. So that's the book of the month. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about, because this is not your first rodeo, you know?
No.
So I want to know a little bit about, you know, NPR. You said this, my books come from indignation, from female rage.
Often, yes.
Powerful statement. I saw that. I was like, wow. So can you talk about that? Like, where your books come from? Tell us a little bit about how you started in the publishing world.
Yeah, when I love that interview, the NPR interview. I loved it because I felt like that was a long conversation, and I felt like they did such a good job of like condensing it into kind of like my mission statement for why I write. You know, I do always say, or often say, that a lot of my books, I always joke, but I'm serious. When people say what inspires you, I'm always like, I'm not as much inspired as like incited. You know, like often there is a sense of indignation, there is a sense of outrage, not always, but I'll see something that's happening in the world and I get indignant about it. I get upset about the way we're talking about it in culture, or the fact that we're not talking about it in culture, and something that needs to kind of get some light. And so I always joke that if I was a really smart, strategic writer, I would think, okay, what's hot right now? Like, what are the trends? Like, what is everybody loving? And that's what I would write. And that's just not how I arrive at story, really, at all. I see something, and I always say that writing is, for me, not just vocational, it's missional, meaning something means something to me. I feel like I'm supposed to be writing about something at a given time, and that if I follow that unction, that the right people will read it. The people I'm writing it for, it will reach them. And what I am deploying that book to do, it will accomplish. You know, and so that's what I mean by feeling like my work is missional. There's something that I'm deploying it to do. And so a lot of times I have that thing, even before I have a story, even before I have characters, I have something that's kind of burning on the inside of me that I want to talk about. And then characters kind of start to filter in, narratives kind of start to filter in, but the research is what really builds the book. You asked how I got into writing or publishing. My background is journalism. And so I always tell people I started writing for a newspaper before I was probably supposed to. I'm sure there was a child labor law violated, but I started writing for our local newspaper when I was 17 years old, you know, and that gave me kind of my first taste of journalism. And I realized I want to write for a living. Went on to get my degree. And I never really thought that I was going to be writing fiction. I always tell people I thought I was going to be in a war-torn country reporting on, you know, what's going on in the world. And I'm writing romance, you know. That all of that kind of connects to what I was talking about, because when you're writing stories, I did a lot of freelancing for like magazines and, you know, writing articles, things like that. And I kind of approach every book the way I approach story, with a group of subjects. You know, I usually am interviewing kind of a wide range of people who have lived the experience that has kind of like landed in my heart that I should be talking about. So I interview them. I do lots of supplemental reading, lots of research, and that really starts to build the story, you know, because out of that, I understand what a person who is navigating that would look like, or might act, or, you know, what would be some of the things that would challenge them, that would press them. And that's how I start to build the characters. And then I start to figure out how can I make these stakes really high? You know, how can I put these people in situations that accomplish what I want to, but also accomplish something in them, you know, because there's a growth arc that I also want to see happen with the characters. So that's kind of how I approach all of that. I'm not super strategic
Okay.
about markets, like what's big in the market, what do people want? Like that's usually not the way I approach it. It's something that kind of hit me and I'm like, I want to talk about
Right.
this. This needs more light. And so when this kind of transitions us into how I got into publishing. I actually for about 11 years, I ran a foundation for families who have children with autism.
Okay.
My son is autistic. And so a lot of my writing for years was like for like Mom Magazine, Modern Mom, Chicken Soup for the Soul. I was
Yeah.
writing around advocacy. I was writing around raising awareness about autism and advocating for families who have children with autism. I would be on like Headline News and, places like that talking about autism. So I was a special needs parent. I was an autism advocate. I was running a foundation. I was, kind of a voice in the community, and everything was that. And I found that I wanted an escape. I wanted something that was just
Yeah.
for me.
Yes.
And I remembered how much I enjoyed reading romance when I was growing up. And I started reading romance again, just as like a safe place to land. Like I know it's going to end happily. It's going to draw me in. There's going to be an element of escape. And as I was reading romance, I started thinking, wow, I guess I could write. I am a writer.
Yeah.
What if I, wrote romance? And I kind of wrote, a lot of people don't realize this. I say it a lot now. Before I Let Go is the first book I ever wrote, 15 years ago.
So I read that somewhere. I was going to ask you
Yes.
about that. Yes, I did read
Yes.
that somewhere.
Yeah, I wrote it kind of like as an experiment, like, can I do this? And I wrote it, and only like 3 people read it, my sister, my cousin, and my husband. And I was giving it to them as I wrote it. Like literally, I'd do a chapter. I was working a full-time job, running a foundation, so I don't even think I was running the foundation at that time. But I was writing and giving it I was working a full-time job. So I was like, writing at night, writing in the morning, like squeezing it in. And I'd send them like a chapter a day or something. And they were like, this is so good. And I don't know, like I did get into advocacy and things like that. And I kind of just pushed that aside for a little while. And so this is not, Before I Let Go is the first book I ever wrote, but it's not the first book I published. When I got serious about writing, I got into like a writer's group, and which I always advise people, like when people like, what's a good thing when you're starting to write? For me, community was a big part of it. It'll look different for different people, but the accountability, the like-mindedness, of being with a group of people who have similar goals and who are motivated around the same thing that you are, that was very helpful for me. And I was in a group of writers in Atlanta, because I lived in Atlanta for a long time, before I moved back to North Carolina, which is where I grew up. And they were amazing. Like they were experienced. I was like the neophyte. I knew nothing about publishing. And even though I've been writing professionally most of my life, I didn't know anything about commercial fiction. I didn't know anything about writing fiction. And that's where I really started to learn. And they would have these big conferences where they would fly in agents and editors, and you would pitch. And so I had written a manuscript, and they were like, you should pitch just for practice. And don't expect them to ask for anything, but just for practice. And so I pitched my debut novel, which is called When You Are Mine. First of all, my debut novel is like, no one should do this. It's a cliffhanger, right? It's like the book was so long. The average romance novel is, I don't know, somewhere between like 70 and 80,000 words. This was like 240,000 words.
Oh, wow.
Which is why they ended up splitting it into 2 books. Yes. But she was like, it's really long. I was like, is it? Because I didn't know.
No.
I'm so like wet behind the ears. I was like, oh, is it? Is it long? It's not supposed to be 3 times what you usually have. And she read a sample, and not even a sample. I pitched it, and she was like, send me the full. And usually they would say a partial is good, a full means they're really interested.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just telling this, I was with Mia Bell. She may not still be in here, but she was early. If you are, hi Mia Bell, in New York last week. But I was telling her this in the book club up in New York I did last week. When she said, send me the full, I was like, the full? Like you want the full, like of my manuscript? Right. She was like, yes, send me the full. And then that was, I think, the agent. And then I was just gonna meet with two. People were like booking 6 and 7 because they're like, you get all these rejections. So I booked with one agent and one editor just for practice. The agent was like, send me the full. And the editor was like, send me the full. And I was like, but do you mean the full? Like, you're saying like the full, that's like amazing. The whole thing. It is amazing. I have a kind of a different experience into traditional publishing, because usually you get like this stack of rejection letters. That's like the story. And so that's what I was expecting. And it's not because I'm just so amazing. It just happened that way.
But you are.
It just but see, I think the advantage of having that experience is you learn as you go. Like there's so much that you learn navigating that. And I didn't have any of that. I was just went from not knowing my book should not be 240,000 words, but should be like a third of that, to all of a sudden I'm, published and I'm having to navigate this world. And I made so many mistakes, and that was a good experience.
To hear the story and hear the truth that you're telling about how it happened, and the mistakes that you made.
Yeah,
you're helping.
I definitely made mistakes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I always, to end that part of it, I always say, my first 4 books were traditionally published, and I didn't make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't make a lot of money. I was like, I don't think I can make a living with this. And there was this group of especially Black and brown women in my writers group who were self-publishing. And they were like, you should try self-publishing. And that's how I started self-publishing. And I've really built my career around self-publishing. And Before I Let Go is my return to traditional publishing. So I'm really, really proud of like my indie, chops, the fact that I built something around, my content and running a business.
Yeah.
That's what self-publishing is running a business.
I love that story. I mean, I absolutely love the story. The fact that Before I Let Go was the first book that you wrote, but then you went back and, you self-published and, you had an agent at the beginning and self-published. And then now coming back, here is Before I Let Go, that literally is like blown people away. It's going to be on Peacock.
Yes.
I mean, talk about that full circle moment.
To me. It's crazy to me.
It's crazy to me. It's not even happening to me. I know when I saw it drop, I was like, oh my God. Amazing.
It's been such a ride. There's so many things that have happened for this book that I never anticipated. And I got to give my husband his props always, because my agent came to me and was like, hey, because I was at a place where I had built my career, like I said, around self-publishing. I won the Rita Award for one of my books, which was, that had never been done by a Black author, and it brought a lot of attention. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden, publishers were coming to us saying, we want Kennedy to publish with us. And for 2 years, I didn't really do anything with that. I was like, I'm over here getting mine. Right. I'm self-publishing. I'm good. And then maybe like 2 years after that, I was like, maybe I will like entertain some of these offers and ideas. And I didn't know what I was going to write. Because usually, like I said, something is inciting me. I'm not just somebody who's walking around with 50 stories in my head. People like, oh my God, you got so many stories. I don't even know where to start. Yeah. Like, that's not me. Like, I see something on television, I'm like, that's a damn shame. I'm going to write about that. Or I see something, I'm like, oh, that's it. And nothing had incited me. And my husband goes, what about that divorce book?
I mean, come on with that. Because first of all, you wrote it years ago. I think you said 15, right?
15 years ago.
The content, the subject is still relevant 15 years later.
Yes, but you know what? It is the shell of that book, but there's so much that's different. And I think it's because I have 15 years as a mom, as a wife,
Yeah.
as a sister, as a friend. And I always tell people that version of the book that I wrote 15 years ago had all of the hurt and none of the healing. Like, I have now been through therapy.
Mhm.
I've navigated depression for myself.
Mhm.
I've had to get on antidepressants. Like, I've navigated being a special needs mom. Like, there's so much that has informed my journey. And
Yeah.
that first book, it's like a shell. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to write that book, you know? And so when my husband brought it up, I was like, oh, that book is crap. He goes, no, like, bring it back out. And so I had to give him his props that if he had not prodded me to reconsider before you, and it wasn't even called Before I Let Go. It was like a different
I was gonna
title.
ask you
The
that.
characters' names were different. Yeah, characters' name. Soledad and Hendrix were not in the book. The
Ooh, and
therapy
we
sessions were not in the
needed them.
book.
We needed them in the
We
book.
needed
We
them.
needed them in the book. Yeah.
Yes. And you know, they're getting their own books.
So
So
you know what? Here's the thing. You're in my notes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry.
You're in my notes.
I'm quiet. You ask the questions.
You're in my notes.
Go.
But here's the thing. Listen, I love that you're telling the story. It's just so engaging. It's so powerful. I love your energy and your spirit. It's just it's so refreshing. But I was going to ask you, was the title Always Before I Let Go? And personally, I know I want to know this, and I know so many people probably. Can you talk about this cover?
Yes.
Because publishing doesn't, we're seeing seeing more Black women and women of color on covers. Years ago it wasn't like that, but wow, right. This is so in your face. It's so bold. It's so, I mean, the hair, everything.
Yes.
I want to hear about the journey to the cover.
I was because I hear a lot of writers say, we don't have, especially in traditional publishing, you don't have control over your covers.
Right.
And going into a book deal, we went to auction, which means there's all these different publishers who are bidding for your book.
Right.
And I was very fortunate that in this particular situation, I knew that I wanted to work with a publisher who saw me as not someone they were going to kind of dictate to, but as a partner.
Yes.
And the publisher that I ended up going with, I'm so grateful because they wanted my input. They wanted my vision for the cover, like from the beginning, like, tell us what you see for this cover. And I talked about kind of deploying a book to accomplish what is in my heart for it. And one of the things one of the intentions around this book is for specifically women of color, even more specifically Black women, to have a safe place to bend and break, around mental health, and really debunking that strong Black woman myth a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're strong, strong, we're Black, we get it. But at the same time, we're so human, and a lot of us are suffering in silence because we're not getting the help we need. So I knew that I was going to be building that around that, and I wanted Black women at a glance to see themselves. And I knew I wanted the textured hair. I knew I wanted her to be, of a darker complexion. Like I knew that. And the thing that I said to them was, I want this cover to feel like art. I want it to feel like art. So even if someone never even reads it, they would want to own it.
That was me. That's my. I was gonna read it, but I wanted the book because of the cover.
Right. I know, and I hear that from so many people, and I just feel it took us about 6 months to do this cover, like just going back and forth and finding the right designer, and it took us a long time. We're working on Soledad's cover now. It's taking a long time. I am so fastidious about covers, and they are so patient with me, because I have what I call the gasp test. Like if I see a cover and I want to gasp, I want to go like that. And
that's it. What you just said. That's it.
Yes, the gasp test. And they were sending me covers, and I'd be like, it's so close, but I'm not gasping. Like, okay, let's try this. Let's add this. Let's do this. And like the last version, the version that we have now, I went, this is it. I literally emailed my editor. I was like, I gasped. I gasped, And the thing is, I'm so glad that we took time and we fought. It ended up being a Good Morning America buzz pick. And
Yes, I
so it
saw
was
that.
like, it was in Times Square. And I'm like, this gorgeous, beautiful Black woman with all this textured afro is like up in Times Square. And, you know, I wanted us to see ourselves in airports and in Costco and on, you know, in Barnes and Noble and all of these places. And I knew what I wanted us to see when we would walk past those shelves. And I just feel like they just did it. They really did it.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned airport because literally places that I've been, this is so weird. I mean, I have taken pictures of that book. I took a picture of it in Target. I took a picture of it when I was going on a flight in the airport. And I have no reason why. It's not like I was going to text you. I don't even know you. I'm like, I'm taking a picture of this lady's book every place I go because it's so pretty.
I am so pleased. Like, even with my like self-published covers, I'm very picky.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, there's no way they're going to go through all the hoops I jump through and all the time that I take to get my covers right. There's no way I'm going to find a publisher who's going to give me the space to do that. And I feel so blessed that I found one who would put up with me going through all of that to do it, because I'm so proud of this cover. Like, I really, really am.
And so everyone in the there's a lot going on. I try to keep up, you know, with the comments and everything, but we're going to talk about the book now. But you're getting a lot of love in the comments for, you know, making people feel seen and being real and just all kind of things. But I want to tell you, when you were talking about the mission, you know, you don't write for like what's hot, what's going on in the times. Right. I had chills when you were talking about that, because you were talking about like you write from like it's mission work for you, right? Yeah. But I noticed something on your website, and it said romance in real life.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
And I just thought about the characters, their vulnerability, being heartfelt, just the human interaction. And so can we talk about, let's dive right in. Let's talk about, you know, what was the mission for Before I Let Go? You know, what were you feeling that made you want to, you know, tell the story?
Right. I mean, when I first, like, I wrote it, 15 years ago? And I think that I always joke that that would have been like the 10-year mark for my marriage, because we've been married for 25 years.
Oh, congratulations.
And thank you. And like at that 10-year mark, a lot of people were like, whoa, like this is real. Okay, this is forever. And there's some unique challenges that kind of come at that decade mark. And for us, we were navigating so much with our son's journey. And I can't remember who I was telling, but my son was diagnosed with autism on a Thursday, and the next day my husband lost his job. And it just, financially, it sent us into such like a dark time, a difficult time. And so we had a lot of tests in our marriage, you know, and a lot of people ask why I write sad books. They call them sad books or hard books, you know, books. Because a lot of times when people read romance, they're not used to books that kind of dive into these really difficult things in the context of romance. And they think of romance as purely an escape. And I'm not writing for people to escape from the real world. Like, that's not what I see romance as doing. I see romance as a safe place for, in the same way that comedy does. You know, like you're at a comedy show, or you're listening to stand up and you're laughing with like the really good ones, you know, especially those who have a satire leaning. And you're laughing and you're having a good time, and then all of a sudden they like punch with like something like real life. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. Oh, now I'm thinking. You know what I mean? Like, now I'm thinking about something. Now I'm feeling about something. I'm not just laughing. And I think for me in romance, I'm like, oh, there's kissing, and oh, I'm swooning, but whoa. Okay, now you've just given me something I gotta like process. Oh, wow, that connects to me. Like, maybe I should consider therapy. Maybe, whoa, you know, and that's kind of how I approach writing romance. And so when I wrote the book originally, I think it was a lot around marriage, you know, marriage being tested. And the mental health the representation was not as present, because I just hadn't been through as much. You know, I didn't know as much. And when I started writing Before I Let Go this time, I was diagnosed with depression while I was writing this book.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, I ended up turning it in late because I couldn't write for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And I assumed it was writer's block. And I wanted it to be everything except depression. Like I wanted writer's block. I can deal with that. Like we can do some exercises, we can do some prompts, we can do some whatever. And I got a writing coach. I was so desperate because I was like, I got to turn this book in and I can't write. And my writing coach, after our first conversation, she was like, I feel like there might be something a little more insidious happening here than just writer's block. She was like, you might want to talk to someone. And I'm like, talk to who? Oh, talk to who? You know? And I ended up going through 3 therapists before I found the right one, that happens to Yasmin in the book. And I really wanted that represented because it's like when at a time when it's hard for you to really do anything, which sometimes depression, that it's just like doing anything feels so effortful. When you finally make it to a therapist or a counselor, someone like that, and then it's not the right fit, you just want to quit.
Right.
But I had to be like, okay, this is not the right one. Okay, I'm going to go to the next one. Okay, this is not the right one. Okay, I'm going to go to the next one. And that third one, she was so good, you know, and I was like, okay, I just want to write. And she's like, I don't care about your book. I don't care about your deadline. I don't care about any of that. I care about you. And we're going to figure out what's going on with you. And I was like, yeah, but you understand, Laura, my book is late. And she was like, we're going to figure you out. And she was like, if we figure you out, this could be the best book you've ever written. And I think back on her saying that to me, and what a dark, dark place I was in. I mean, I was having daily panic attacks that I was hiding from my husband and from my friends. Like I was in the closet having panic attacks, and I was in the darkest time of my life and trying to pull myself out and trying to write. And so much of that time and what it took to pull myself out of that informs Yasmin's journey with mental health and what it takes for her to pull herself out. And what I learned navigating depression is a lot of what she learned. And so my intentions, I was looking, Black women and mental health, like that's not something that you don't hear people talking about being concerned about our Black health. We already know our pain is devalued. Right. Our physical pain is devalued. You can look at the, infant mortality rates and the, women dying in childbirth and with Black women not being listened to in the medical field. Like our pain, our physical pain is devalued. Our mental health is devalued. And so when I was writing, sorry, my garage door. My husband just opened the garage door. I was like, the garage door is opening, my husband. But you had Simone Biles, who withdrew from the Olympics, and you had
vilified for doing it.
And vilified for esteeming her mental health. Yes. And then you had Naomi, who withdrew, I think maybe from the US, I can't remember which open it was, which tournament, but also derided for putting her mental health. We had, I think it was Miss USA or Miss America, who died by suicide. All of these things happened as I was writing Before I Let Go, around the time I was writing Before I Let Go. And all of a sudden, Black women's mental health was being discussed, and I just wanted this book to amplify that. I wanted this book to amplify that so many of us were suffering in silence and needed help. That's for Black women, but I also had so many intentions for Black men. For Black men, there's stigma that exists around mental health culturally in general. Yes. But when you get into marginalized communities, and then more specifically, when you get into the Black community, like that's a level of stigma, and God ain't no problem, God can't fix, that doesn't
pray your way out of it. Yes,
absolutely.
It is.
It is. And a lot of people get frustrated with Josiah because he doesn't go to therapy right away. And that was intentional.
It was so real though. I know people like that.
Yes.
That is a real thing.
Yes.
Yes. And Black men they don't have the space, I think, to be vulnerable or to be with a voice where they are able to, talk about their troubles. And
Yeah.
there's so much in this book. Like, I mean, we don't have enough time. We don't. But in the comments, people are talking about how you're making them cry right now. They said that you have no respect for their tear ducts.
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry, you guys.
But I think that was one of the main, like, the realness of the book.
Yes.
Although you show Black love, you show Black pain.
Yes.
But you show a family unit that is dealing with the hurt,
Yes.
for their children, making it work.
Yes.
The representation of a positive Black father.
Yes.
And so I say this to say, because you talk about the 10-year mark of your marriage. So I was married for 14. And I think I just felt every aspect of this book, like the co-parenting, things happen in the marriage. It didn't end great, but we're friends now. We co-parent together. And so I just thought, like, it was so relatable.
Yeah.
And
and what you're saying is what I wanted people to see. Like when you said, I know people like this. I wanted, I wanted people to read this book and see not, because a lot of times we're watching like, reality shows or whatever, and it's like drama, and it's like, what? And I was like, I wanted to portray two mature Black grown folks, who put their children's well-being first, and who are like, okay, we've had our things, but we're going to do what's best for these kids.
Yes.
And we may not be together. And even when they're not together, I think it's obvious. First of all, I think I wanted the attraction and the love to be palpable. Even though they're not together, they still care deeply about each other. And even though they're not sure how that should be expressed, and there's a lot of loneliness, especially on Josiah's part, I think. Josiah's isolated in a lot of ways, and it's really not until he gets into therapy and starts unpacking not just the pain. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but not just the pain around his marriage and other losses, but losses that he's been experiencing since he was a child, and never having unpacked that. And I really wanted the thing. So many things in my head right now. A lot of people will ask me, how do you measure success? Like, is it making lists? Is it sales? Is it all of these things? Of course, like everybody wants that. For me, the greatest metric of success is impact. And so when I have people who say what you say, I know someone like this, I saw myself. When I have people who say, oh my gosh, my husband wouldn't go to therapy. I wonder if he would go to therapy. Things would be so different if he would go to therapy. Or, I need to go to therapy. The messages I get from people who are like, I read Before I Let Go. I called my insurance company today, to see if I can get into therapy. I got my partner to read Before I Let Go. We're going to marriage counseling now. Like, for me, I'm like, there is no greater metric of success than that, And so all of that comes from the intentions that I had, especially around mental health, positive Black fatherhood, seeing grown folks being grown, co-parenting, and therapy. Like, those were kind of some of my key intentions. So to hear that it landed for people and that this book accomplished what I sent it out to do is, at least for a lot of people, is very important to me.
And I think another thing that I love too, I see, because, you're showing, the pain of divorce, the mental health, depression, and all these things, but you're normalizing that it's not always trauma for Black people and Black families. We have normal lives and go through things, ups and downs, like everyone else does, right?
Right.
And like you said, it's a grown book. It really is.
It is.
And I will never forget, I'm reading this book, and I thought, when they were talking about when I got divorced, I was like, okay, listen, I know what happened to me, but I'm not spending a Thanksgiving or Christmas without my kids. And so this is what's going to happen. We're going to be together for Thanksgiving and Christmas. This is how it's going to go down. I mean, it's like, I'm not doing that. So I want to talk to you about, the powerful friendships, because I think, we Black women of color, we need those in our lives. We really do. And so, of course, we love that there's going to be a second book.
Yes, in March. Soledad's book is in March. I'm
Okay.
so excited.
So we got to have you back. So we're going to claim that now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so, oh, yes, I'm going to talk about the steam. Don't worry. We're going to talk about the steam. We're going to
She's
talk
like,
about
yeah, okay, therapy, but what about the spice?
Okay, yeah, we all know we need therapy, but let's get to the good stuff. What about the steam? So, okay, let's talk about the friendships, and then let's skip over to the steam. I'm going to let you have the floor. Yes.
Yes, yes. It was, like I said, this core of friendships, this core of women wasn't really in the first version of the book. Like there were friends, but it wasn't this solid core that coalesced the way this one did. And there were a few things that were important to me. One is I found myself when I was navigating depression so isolated. Even from people who I'd always been close to, not really sharing what I was going through with anyone. And I think some of that happens to Yasmin. She talks about being isolated from her friends, and really it was refreshing for her to find these new friendships of people who didn't know her when she was part of the it couple, when she was like the Yasmin who had it all together and lost everything. Like there was something refreshing for her finding people who were getting to know her as she had kind of reclaimed herself and the recovered version of herself. There was something refreshing for her making these new friendships even late in life. And what was important for me with the core of friendships is, and people may not notice it, but it was very intentional. These three women all have very different vantage points.
In my notes.
Right. So you've got Soledad, who is like, my house is my kingdom. Like she's like, I'm not really looking for a job outside of my home. And she sees so much value in raising these three amazing women and sending them out into the world to do great things and to make the world a better place. Yes. Like that's her mission. And then you have Hendrix, who was like, I don't even know if I want kids. I don't think I want kids. I got rich auntie energy over here. I got my job. I got my clients. I'm good. And then you've got Yasmin, who's kind of a blend of both, who she's like, I got my business, I got my entrepreneur efforts, but I'm going to be at every soccer game. I'm going to be at every PTA meeting. I'm going to be, I'm going to do both those things. And so often culture, society turns us as women against each other in judging our choices. When that's what feminism is supposed to be about, is getting to choose, is agency. Yes. And not saying, oh, you stay home, you're lazy. Oh, you work, you neglect your kids. Oh, it's like bringing together this core of women who have very different vantage points, very different priorities, but don't judge each other's choices and love each other unconditionally.
Yeah, I love
it. So that was really important. That was really important. And I've turned in Soledad's book, which is so different from Before I Let Go. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope people aren't expecting another Before I Let Go, because Soledad's journey is so different. And then, what were you saying?
No, I'm saying if they read Before I Let Go, they should be able to tell that her life is different. So it's
her life is very different.
Her life is totally different. Her husband is a mess.
I got you. That's all I'm gonna say.
As long as you're gonna address him, I'm good. I know our mom already is.
I got your girl. I got your girl.
So let's talk about. We're gonna talk about the steam, but first, give us a little bit. What can you say about? You just turned the book in, and it's coming out in March.
It's coming out in March. Yeah, I turned it in a while ago. We've been like. In publishing, especially traditional publishing, you just pass the book back and forth, like for edits and, last minute tweaks. Yes. So the book has been in for a while. We're working on the cover. We'll be doing the cover reveal pretty soon and the title reveal. But I can tell you that this is the way I talk about this book. First of all, I'm not going to spoil. The biggest question I get around Soledad's book is, of course, her husband. Yes. I'm not going to spoil anything, but people always like, what are we going to do about that husband? Yes. And all I say is, I got her. Like, I got her. I got you. I got Soledad. So I'm not going to give details about that away, but the friendship is even more, I think, prominent in this book. One of my favorite lines, and I shared this line last week when I was in New York. So if anybody was in the audience then, you already know what the line is. one of my favorite lines from the book, I might misquote myself, is there's not enough sonnets for friendship. And what I mean by that is all of the love songs are about romantic love.
Yes.
And there are not enough songs about what friendship should mean to us. And there are not enough songs about the power of, you know, specifically in this case, a group of women who are there for each other and who love each other. And I think that when I write in her book, it goes on to say that when lovers have come and gone, that we are each other's constants, you know, and so that's
true.
Really, really huge. I love All About Love by Bell Hooks.
Yes.
Is a kind of a thread that goes through Soledad's entire book. There is lots of pining. Like there's lots and lots of pining in this book, which excites me. There's a I don't want to.
Nope, don't tell us.
Like the things I want to tell you, I don't want to give away. But I will say, you know, I mentioned that my son is autistic. I had never written explicitly autistic characters, and there are autistic twins in this book who just, I think they're just heart stealers. And for me, it was very important because I'm seeing more neurodivergent representation in books, which is amazing, specifically in romance, which is amazing, and specifically around autism. But my son, I haven't really seen a lot of books that reflect my son's spot, you know, on the spectrum, which is, we don't really use the language like severe anymore, but that's how colloquially people talk about it, is the more severe end of the spectrum. We don't really use that language, but I only say it for reference so that people kind of understand where he is and where he functions. I haven't seen much of that in romance, and I think it's probably because it's hard to write.
Right.
But I have autistic twins in this book who are just amazing. I think they're amazing, and their dad is amazing. That's all I'll say, is that their father is amazing, and I look forward to readers. I think that I let my best friend read it. I don't let many people read. I have a lot of beta readers and sensitivity readers. Really, I had an army of them for this book. I had about 12, somewhere around there. I can't remember exactly now, 12 to 15, like sensitivity readers, interviews, things I did like that. So they had all read it, but no one outside of that kind of like bubble. And I let my best friend read it. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm kicking my feet, I'm squealing, I'm laughing."
That's the best feeling ever.
She goes,
"That's the best feeling ever."
She goes, "I think this is your funniest book." And I'm not known for funny books. You know, I'm known for books that make people cry. She goes, "It's still emotional, but she was like, I'm laughing and I'm just having a good time." And I almost feel like this book is, because a lot of times people will read my books and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I loved it so much. I cried through the whole thing," you know, and then we got this happily ever after. But there are some books of mine that are so difficult. People are like, "I don't know if I can say I enjoyed it. I just know it was really good." Yeah. And I think that this is a book that will give people my brand of romance, but they like will be kicking their feet and squealing and like, "Oh my gosh, I'm having a good time."
Right.
And a lot of my books aren't like that. And so I'm looking forward to people experiencing Soledad's journey. And Hendrix is such a scene stealer. Like through the entire book, I'm like, oh, like my editor was like, "Why are so many of my notes about Hendrix?" He's like, "I love her so much. I can't wait for her book." So yeah, I'm really excited.
Well, your words led us into the next thing. You said would have you squealing and squirming. You had us squealing and squirming with the scene, the steamy scene. And so let's talk about, we're going to close out really, I would talk about your approach and let's talk about the garage. I mean, we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to.
The garage. We're not going, because we don't want to spoil it.
We don't want to spoil anything. But also, before I do that, you gave us an assignment. You said that All About Love, Bell Hooks, was like kind of the thread between the next book. So if you guys haven't read All About Love, you might want to read that before March, before the book comes out, before Soledad's books come out. So let's go back to the sex and your approach to writing it real. I mean, woo, the scenes.
Yeah,
we're calling it the scenes. I just said
it is. I think that it is most people consider this a slow burn, you know, like you don't get to those scenes until deep into the book. And part of the reason is because I don't want to see these two people who have not healed, who have hurt themselves and hurt each other so much in navigating grief, which is something we really didn't talk about, but there's a lot of grief that they've navigated, loss. And different people handle grief in different ways. And a lot of times with couples, difficult circumstances either drive you together or tear you apart. And this is a situation where grief and loss tore them apart. And part of the reason it tore them apart is because they didn't have the tools, they didn't have the healing, didn't have the therapy, like they didn't have what they needed to heal. And so I didn't want to see these two unhealed people who haven't really learned very much having sex. Like to me, that's not the point. You know, I wanted them, so we see there's a lot of foreplay in the sense that we see them healing and we see them relearning each other. And there's this moment, I don't want to give too much away, but there's this moment where there's a big family gathering, I'll just say that, and Josiah looks at Yasmin and he's like, she's back. You know, like this amazing woman, you know, that I knew before is back, you know, and he's just like blown away by all of the work that she did to get to this place. And she sees him changing, like this man who was like therapy, what? You know, is now like banging on his therapist's door, like, I need an emergency, like I need your perspective to navigate life. That's a journey. And so for me, the sex was really a culmination of all of that, a celebration of how they had healed. And it was a device to show this deeper intimacy that's not just physical, you know, but that comes through all that they've experienced. And when I have my approach to sex scenes in general, a lot of times when I'm reading a sex scene, I find myself skipping because I'm like, okay, that's cringy. Okay, that's, you know, done. It's the same thing, you know, whatever. For me, a good sex scene, I like to write what I call unskippable sex scenes. Meaning, if you skip this scene, you are going to miss not just the physical intimacy itself, you're going to miss something that deepens in their relationship. You know what I mean? If you miss this scene, you are missing something pivotal in their relationship because the sex for me has to move the story forward. It has to move the connection forward. And if you skip it, you're missing something potentially tectonic in their relationship.
Well, the way we're not skipping nothing with the way you write. I mean, the energy was coming off of Bell Hooks wrote All About Love. The energy was coming. It was so much world building, though, character building. I mean, it's just the way you write, you don't want to skip anything. Like, you just keep turning and wanting to find out. I mean, I told one of my friends, I said, I don't even know who Kennedy Ryan is. I said, but she owes me like so many hours of sleep. I still got to get up and go to work in the morning. I'm still reading this, listening to this book. And so
that's awesome.
I love that you say that if you skip the scene, you're missing something. So it means something.
It has, for me, it needs to mean something. That's not, like, I have a couple of one night stands. I have a couple of, you know, in books. But even that is like, I thought it was going to be this thing and it was something different. You know what I mean? Like, I thought it was going to be like quick bang. Okay, we're out of here. But something like, whoa, something hooked in me during that. And it's not what I thought it was going to be. But I love a good slow burn. Like, that's my favorite thing to write, is we've had time to really build something relationally between them. And then that physical is like a celebration of what we've been doing. So
I like the slow burn. I think slow burn sometimes gets a bad rap, but I think the slow burn with meaning and building and taking us somewhere is always appreciated. I know we're at our time, but I literally, you guys, I had like all these things, and I just love this conversation because it just went where it's supposed to go. Because I was going to talk about the trauma and the grief, but those things you need to read and then come back and watch, and then you'll understand what's going on. Lastly, if you can share, what are you working on now?
Oh gosh, so I am, well, I will just, because people always ask me, we are having conversations, you know, I'm an executive producer on the Before I Let Go adaptation for television. And so we're having amazing conversations, even though the writer strike, the actor
Yes.
strike, like those things, which, and I'm a writer, I support writers having a livable wage. I hope that I think we're on like day 75 of the strike. So hopefully, you know, we can get a good resolution for them. But it slows everything down, you know?
Yes.
So, but we are still having great conversations about what this show can be. So I'm an executive producer, so I'm working on some of that, which is really new for me and amazing. And like I said, I just turned in Soledad's book. I am about to start Hendrix's book, you know?
That's why I asked.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've been traveling a lot
Yes,
over the last, it's been like a whirlwind. I have a month at home, and before I have to get back on the road and in August. And so I'm just kind of trying to spend some time with my family and get refreshed. And then when I get back from that trip, I start on Hendrix's book, which is the first version is due in January. And so I'm really excited about that. Like a lot of my indie books have been acquired traditionally and re-released, which has been amazing. So that's been what I've been focused on, is promoting those older books that, you know, I was really blessed that traditional publishers picked them up and are re-releasing. I have 8 books that are re-releasing, which is
amazing,
crazy. But the Hoop series is the Kingmaker and the Rebel King just re-released, which is one of my favorite things I've ever written. And then the Hoop series, which is probably my most popular series as an indie, is re-releasing. August 8th, Long Shot re-releases, in September Block Shot, and then in October Hook Shot. So
amazing. This is like, I mean, it doesn't get any better than this.
It's kind of crazy. It is. It really is. And I feel so blessed, and I feel it's surreal, and I feel really humbled by it, you know, like the things that are happening. Because there are so many talented people, and I'm just like, why are these things happening for me? But I'm really, really grateful, and always looking for ways to open doors for especially other Black and brown women who are writing. So, you know,
well,
we'll
we
see.
can't thank you enough. I hope you know, we are able to have you back.
Yes.
I know for sure that Soledad's book is going to be a Spine of the Month. I can already say it.
Yes.
So I can already say
I will come back with bells on.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to have you back, but we wish you continued success. We're always in your corner. We're going to be rooting, posting, talking about everything, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for being with us.
Look at all the comments.
Someone asked, I am going to save the live. Of course, we save them all here. So
okay.
All right, take care.
I'll share
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right,
bye.
bye-bye.
Happy Saturday.
Saturday.
Bye.